You by Forever Remodeling. Stress-free and high-quality remodeling. View their stunning transformations online at the number 4everremodeling.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
60, The Answer, Chicago's Morning Answer. Chris Brock filling in for Dan Proft. Dan's back on Monday. 312-642-5600 is our number, 312-642-5600. KC Crosbie, the co-chair of the RNC. KC, it's kind of a big deal. You replaced Laura Trump. That's pretty cool.
I was excited. I had some big shoes to fill, for sure.
Well, welcome to the show. Glad to have you. So the shutdown is over. Here's one of the concerns that folks in our camp have, obviously, is is there going to be some kind of a compromise with Obamacare? Because that's the last thing most people on our side want, is some kind of an Obamacare compromise. What do you think is going to happen there from the Republican side?
Well, I think we saw that President Trump was very clear last night when he said that, we're not going to negotiate with these people. We're not going to be extorted. I mean, I think certainly that we're going to have to see what our elected representatives come up with over the next couple of weeks. But, certainly President Trump was pretty clear that it is America first, and the Democrats gained nothing by keeping our government shut down. Longest shutdown ever. They had a proposal, which is exactly what they passed over a month ago. They just passed it yesterday. They had this over a month ago and didn't pass it. They held our American people, some of the most vulnerable women, children, veterans, hostages, and as little pawns in their game that they were playing, and they gained absolutely nothing.
Yeah, there was a report I've been playing for 2 days now. I got a piece of audio out of with one of the food places, pantries or whatever, in Buffalo, New York, and people were dumpster diving. That's what the Democrats got the folks for the shutdown. They had people dumpster diving. Quite the tactic there, doing that to people. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Speaker Johnson said it best last night when he said it's cruel. What they did, it was just cruel to some of our most vulnerable people, and frankly, I think it's disgusting.
Trump also, going back to the Obamacare stuff, as you said last night, he said when he signed the bill, he said that his idea is to give the money back to us that is being spent on Obamacare because, of course, as you know, it's making insurance companies rich. And by the way, I thought Luigi Mangione was their hero on the Democrat side. Then why do the Democrats want to make these insurance companies rich? Answer that for me, of course, but also tell me about the idea. How likely is it that Trump's going to truly be able to, or the Republicans are going to be able to truly give us that money and give it for our HSAs to make our own decisions about health care?
Well, I think what President Trump, it's a system that was broken. It's created by Democrats. They're the ones who put the sunset clause in, and they're the ones who caused this big mess. And, certainly we have to look at every single option on the table. There are various tools we can use, but the problem has to be fixed, and the problem was created by the Democrats. And I think that's the larger point that President Trump was trying to get through is, we have to have something that works. And I'm sure people like yourself, my husband and I are small business owners, and what we saw with our health care under Obamacare is we are paying crazy amounts for premiums and deductibles. We were told we were going to be able to keep our doctors, and that didn't happen. I just switched my primary care doctor, and we saw that across the board. And what President Trump has pointed out, that this is a system where there are certain groups that are profiting off of it, and while the American people are, again, being held hostage with something that the Democrats created that just simply does not work.
The one thing that the Democrats got is a guarantee from Leader Thune that there will be a vote in December on Obamacare. But obviously, what do you think the Republicans are going to do in that case? Because they better not vote for the same crap to keep going with Obamacare. But what do you think is going to happen? Is it just a token, let them vote?
Yeah, it could be. I'm not sure. I'm not in those backroom discussions where they're negotiating the details of what they're going to bring forward. But certainly, I think that President Trump has been very clear that the American people are not going to be extorted. And if there's one thing we know about President Trump is he always puts the American people, his America First agenda first. and foremost. And so I think that we're going to see that reflected with, Leader Thune and others as they move forward through this negotiation process and what they bring forward for a vote.
KC Crosbie, co-chair of the Republican National Committee, taking over for Lord Trump. The Epstein files. I love how there's 23,000 documents. Democrats pull out 3. Redacted name Virginia Giuffre, who's already that was released publicly anyways. So what's the idea here? Do we want to release all the files? Do you think that's going to happen? Because the vote's going to come up soon, and you got Adelita Grijalva, the leftist from Arizona, being sworn in, and she says the first thing I'm going to do is sign the discharge to release all the documents. What should happen, and what do you think is going to happen with that?
Well, I think we'll see, but one thing I can say for sure is that it was brought up last night, a discharge position. It was up for unanimous consent, and the Democrats who have fought for the past few weeks to get this released, all objected to it. And so I think you nailed it on the head. It's a distraction. They know that they messed up with the shutdown, and they're looking for every distraction that they can find right now. And, they had the opportunity to vote last night, and they objected it. And
they mysteriously find 3 documents to release on the day the government, they lose, the government is reopened. What's up with that?
Yeah. Well, it's typical of them. They put out half-truths, redacted reports. They're trying to make some kind of narrative. And, again, we have the most transparent president. We have the most transparent administration. And I think what you see is when they put out these half-truths, it usually comes back to bite them. And so, again, last night they had the opportunity, and they objected again because they're just trying to simply distract.
Casey, I want to ask you about the economy. You have, in fact, I think I have this, what's his name? Harry Enton from CNN coming out and talking about the with the economy and Trump's numbers. It is not good. In fact, he was talking about in the latest poll that Trump is like way behind Biden for blame now. It's like 28% roughly, I think, on Biden that people in a new poll say it's his fault for the economy, and 54% for Trump. That's a big problem. You have a lot of people saying lately, very much in the past week or 2 or 3, that the economy is not going in the right direction. But meanwhile, the attention in the Trump administration is on international affairs. I have no problem with him blowing up the boats in Venezuela, going towards Venezuela, coming out of Venezuela. I got no problem with that. I like his foreign policy a lot. I like it a lot. I always have. But the numbers on the economy are not good, as I mentioned. But also, let me throw a few other things in here about how bad things are at this point. First of all, the 50-year mortgage is insane to me, but look at this. The average car loan now spans 69 months. That's 5.75 years. There's no way you would sign a car note on that for that long. I wouldn't. And 22% of new loans are 84 months. That's 7 years. It's financial suicide. The median age of a U.S. home buyer sits at a record high of 61 years right now, the average median age for a home buyer. And the median age of first-time home buyers is 40 years of age. I'm not blaming the Trump administration for this, but we have a massive problem with our economy and the home front. What is he going to do, and what is the RNC going to do to make this economy better?
Yeah, so I think that what we're seeing is obviously we had 4 years under Biden that were just disastrous, and this didn't happen overnight. And I think even what we're seeing now is gas is down for all-time low in 4 years. People will be traveling for Thanksgiving and Christmas and able to see their families. And the things that President Trump is trying to implement certainly puts the American people first. And we have to see legislation get passed that's going to have impact on the American people. I mean, President Trump's policies we see working. I mean, trillions of investment coming back into the United States with his tariffs. We see deregulation, and we look at things like some of the Biden-era efficiency standards that they put in place, and people now we see that appliance savings on things like air conditioners and gas stoves and water heaters and light bulbs. So we inherited this mess. We're not even a year into this administration. We've come a long way since he has taken office, and it's just if these policies, we have got to get the America First policy and put Americans first, and we see that with President Trump, that being a priority. And so, we look at what the Democrats just did to us. They kept government closed for the longest time, and that's going to have about a $1.5 trillion economic negative impact damage on us. We see where people who have to fly for work, 20,000 flights delayed and canceled. We see people without paychecks. I mean, the Democrat policies just have not worked, and we're not even a full year into President Trump's administration, and we're already seeing things like deregulation, inflation staying flat. I mean, people are going to start feeling it very soon, but, certainly these policies that Biden inflicted on us didn't happen overnight. It was 4 years of pain.
But the polling does not show that, unfortunately, and that's a big problem. And I wonder, and I'm going to back you up a lot here. Prices under Joe Biden for 4 years went up 20%. Real wages declined $4,000 to $5,000 during his time. Inflation rates up 2.5%, 2.5% under CPI. That's actually with the Trump administration, I believe, and that's good. Larry Kudlow said these stats. I wrote them down yesterday. Housing prices, though, since 2020 in the Biden administration have soared 56% since 2020. It's unthinkable what has been happening. But what do you say to people who say that Trump has not been focused as much on our economy, but instead has been focused internationally?
Well, I would say that President Trump has been focused on everything. Again, he came in, he had inherited a big mess, whether it was at home or abroad, and there is so much that has had to happen. I mean, if we look at the amount of activity that President Trump has had, not even a year into his administration, it's quite remarkable. And again, he inherited a huge mess, as you just mentioned. And when we look at what's going on within the Democrat Party, I mean, if you want to talk about approval ratings, they're at all-time lows in decades. Their fundraising is horrific, and they have leaders like Mamdani, AOC, Schumer, Pelosi. You go down the list. The far-left woke people of their party are leading, and people are just not buying into their agenda. And so, it's going to take time. He inherited this big mess, and certainly President Trump is committed to putting America first and his policies. But for anybody to suggest that he is not focusing on the American people is just simply not true.
One more question for you, Casey, and I appreciate your time this morning. 50-year mortgages. That is insane. I mean, you're 30 years old, you get a 50-year mortgage, you're paid off when you're 80. You're going to pay, by the way, on a 50-year mortgage note, you're going to pay $1.2 million for a $400,000 house. Is that really a good policy?
Yeah, so I think that what we've seen is that President Trump is looking at different tools in the toolbox to help people achieve home ownership. And, the goal would be that they wouldn't have to have a 50-year mortgage, because we are going to start seeing things get better, and that people are going to be able, with inflation coming down and, all economic things leading in the right direction. But it's just simply a tool. And I think that they've been pretty clear about they are looking at every option so that people can have the American dream, and it's just simply a tool.
So it's possible that he will not do that officially then?
I can't say whether one thing I know in my position is you never get ahead of President Trump.
No,
and right now,
you don't.
I think that they're looking at every single tool in the box that they have available to them. And this is, certainly something that has been presented and tossed around. And I think we'll see. But I'll come back and we'll be able to discuss it once we figure it out, once they come out with a policy on it.
KC Crosbie, how long, you're the co-chair of the RNC, how long have you been in there after taking over for Lord Trump? How long have you been there now at that position?
So I've been on the RNC since 2012. I was treasurer, so I served under Chairman Whatley and co-chaired Trump during the presidential cycle. I was the one who was responsible for all of the compliance with the building and the Trump 47 agreements, as well as the convention. And when Laura Trump decided that she was not going to run for co-chair, I was asked to take over.
Nice.
And so I've been in this position since January.
Well, congratulations, and I'm glad we got to have you on Chicago's Morning Answer. KC Crosbie, co-chair RNC. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
All right, you too. So there you go. And it is interesting on the economy thing. I mean, you can't tell me that a 50-year mortgage is wise. I mean, you can, but that's got to be one of the most stupidest things in the world, and I don't think he's going to bring that to fruition. I mean, that's insane. Paying $1.2 million for a $400,000 house. You know, they tell you and me when you're young and it's your first time signing a 30-year mortgage note, for example, or less, don't look at the interest you're going to pay. I know that, and it's very true, but dang, this one's insane. That's too much. And look at these car note things that I told you about. Look at this. This is new data from Edmunds, automotive research firm. Average car loan spans 69 months. 69 months, the average car loan. That is, and again, I literally did the math. I sat there. I mean, it's not complicated, but I said, what the heck is 69 months? You know, I'm just a Pollock from Chicago. And so I type in 69 months, 5.75 years. A car is a depreciating asset. You will never catch up with that. That is absolutely insanity. It is sheer insanity. And then 22%, so that's more than 1 out of 5 new loans, are 84 months. That's 7 years, dude. You should really shoot for 3 years on a car note. If you can't do 3, 5 is 5. But that cannot be any. That is, oh my gosh. And by the way, you know, do what I did way back when. To get out of debt, we did a lot of austerity measures. My wife and I did. One of the things we did was we had a car payment. We traded in a car. We had some car payment left over on that. We rolled it into a loan, and we got this really nice Honda Odyssey minivan way back when. Our car payment, this is way back when, was like $400 and something, $423 a month. It was foolish. It was stupid. I sold that thing. I took a loss of about $5,000 on it. But you know what I did? I didn't have a $423 payment for another 4 or 5 years. It was killing us. Oh my gosh! And then guess what else? I saw something, and I don't have the data in front of me. It was something like the average car payment, or car payments are now, a large chunk of them are now $1,000 a month. That's like, you know, depending on where you're at, what your house, what your mortgage is at, that's like half of a mortgage. What in God's name are people doing? So I sold that car at a loss. And then we got a beater car. We had one nice car, one beater car. And guess what we did? We worked our asses off, and we paid off our debt. And it was a lot of sacrifice and a lot of hard work, but I thank God we did that, because debt is slavery. The only acceptable debt is a mortgage. Car payments, I've opened up on that more, but I understand that to a certain extent. Don't get me wrong. But my gosh. Okay, there's something I have to tell you about coming up next. You have to hear this. My in-laws, 2 of my in-laws, one is retired from Walmart, the other one works at Walmart. And with the food stamp stuff, one of my in-laws told my wife last night. My wife comes into the room. I'm sitting in my nice studio here where I'm sitting in my house. And my wife comes in and says, "You're not going to believe this." She goes, well, I'll tell you what the story was coming up next, but it has to do with people working at Walmart and food stamps. You have to hear this. This is Chris Crosbie. And by the way, Paul Vallis, I cannot wait to talk to Paul Vallis. There's so many things we have that he has spoken out on lately, whether it be Pritzker, whether it be Brandon Johnson, whether it be Chicago Public Schools, whether it be Chicago's killing fields, in a column he wrote about Chicago in the Chicago Contrarian the other day. You've got to hear him coming up next. I love Paul Vallis. That's all coming out. It's 7:37 with him. But next, food stamps, Walmart. Chris Crock in for Dan Proft. Lines wide open at 312-642-5600, 312-642-5600. You can follow me on Twitter at Chris Crock Show, ChrisKrok, or my podcast on Rumble or YouTube at Crock Talk, at KROKTALK, AM 560, The Answer.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Salem News Channel is America's fastest growing conservative TV network.
It's an absolute crazy day.
Home to the largest lineup of